Welcome back to the Perfect Lab Podcast. I'm Mark Jager. This is Mark Kilgore. I go by Jager. He goes by Kilgore. And guess what, guys? Today we have Isaac Torres Jr. and Josh Halka. Man, we got these guys just fresh off of GridLife Laguna Seca. We have 3 podium finishers here on the channel today, all to talk about GridLife Laguna Seca Festival and how this went. We're going to get some insights into this event, the logic, the fun, and get some insights into the podium sprint and the mindset of these drivers and what they have to go through in the podium sprint. All right, guys, just want to first start this off and say, man, congratulations to all 3 of you guys. Like, huge congratulations. Kilgore, I'm just going to start with you, man. You've been waiting for this day to get that number 1 spot. And sad to say, you don't have the number 1 trophy behind you yet, but we're going to get that.
Man.
It's going to get there.
I assume it is probably somewhere in like Texas right about now, maybe Oklahoma on its way back, as is the car. So Turn In Concepts, both me and Josh shipped our cars out there with Turn In, and they are bringing the rig back this week. So they've got the trophy. Didn't have enough room in my bag, unfortunately, to bring it with me. But I've got it in spirit, man. It's still all over my smile, right?
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? And obviously, I'm going to cut a little bit to the chase here. So, Josh Halka, man, bringing home another first place finish. This isn't your first. So, what do you think, man? How was that first place for you?
I'm gonna be a Debbie Downer, I guess, because to be completely honest, I've been doing time attack for a long time, in this class for a long time, and to me, I can be happy and like excited about a win if I win and I get a record. Those are like the 2 kind of main things I think that are baseline criteria. And being at Laguna Seca was awesome. It was a fun weekend. I did well. I was happy about that. But gotta say, I went 1/10 faster than I did 2 years ago, and the record, which is held by Luca, that also now set the street mod record. So he holds 2 records at Laguna. So props to him. He is still like, I don't know, a second and a half or something like that faster than me as far as the record goes. So we're doing time trials. We're trying to set records in my mind. So, first place is awesome, but I would have been personally just much happier had I broken the record and then also got first place. And then the best thing that could possibly happen is if you sit there and you think all the fastest people are here, I broke the record and I got first place. That's when I'm like buying a Rolex based on that event and try to commemorate it or something, right? So, I mean, I love getting first. I love being successful for the team and everything. But I mean, honestly, for me, like I was more excited for Mark. Like I got out of my car and I was like, let me see what's going on with Street GT right now. So, I mean, it's a good weekend, but you want to break the record too, I think.
Yeah, Luca, man, I will give Luca a ton of props. His record from 2023, it says Luca with a 134.8.
What was he driving?
Evo 9.
That's Evo, right?
Evo 9. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, that is a very, very stout record that he still holds. And I can understand your sentiment, Josh. It's definitely one of those things where, yes, you pulled out a victory at a 136.2, but you are, like you said, you are a bit ways off that lap time there. And so we'll talk more about that and more understanding about why you were at where you were at and so on and so forth. But in the meantime, we're going to jump over to Isaac Torres Jr. Isaac, man, you had a weekend to remember. So GridLife, this was your first ever GridLife event, correct?
Yes, sir. First GridLife we ever have done, honestly. I might be happier than Kilgore and Josh combined because we came out and we didn't expect to get on the podium. To be real with you, we came into the podium sprint in 4th place, and there's I know it was Fortner and another Corvette, and then of course Luca in front of us, and they were just running fast all day, and we weren't on their level yet, and we came into the podium sprint and we were able to snatch 2nd place, which was amazing, man. It was a great weekend.
Yeah, I will say I feel like you kind of came out of nowhere. You were you were pretty far down the pack. Seemed like you were really struggling, and we're gonna have to get into why that struggle was happening. But it seemed like you were really struggling, and then Podium Sprint came on, and all of a sudden Isaac pulled out the bag and said, "I can do this." Put every bit of Go Fast juice in the car, and every bit of Go Fast juice, you slurped it all up and just went to town. Dude, I mean, it was wild. And again, just to go into it, so you ran a 131.577 in your Supra, man, and it's a little over a second behind Luca, but keeping in mind, again, Luca the madman, he went and ran a 130.3 and set the new street mod rear wheel drive record. So to be just over a second behind Luca, setting that record, I think that is a very stout performance from you, because at the end of the day, man, you end up in a situation where if you don't normally run grid life, is your car really set up for grid life rules, or is it more for GTA rules?
So before this event, it was more GTA rules because we were able to run, like the Ings bumper and splitter, which was allowed us to run over a little more than an inch of splitter, right? So we came into this event with a little less downforce and a little less front grip in the front. So those on Friday, I think, we were pretty slow compared to a lot of the other guys because we weren't gripping in the front and we were losing our butt in the rear. So, um, I think we were after every session we were kind of tweaking, making these small little adjustments to the suspension, changing rebound and stuff. And by Sunday we were pretty good with like the grid life regulations, I can say. And yeah, we went fast. We did good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you would definitely went fast. All right, Kilgore, I'm gonna ask you a couple questions. Dude, how afraid were you? How afraid were you in those first few moments going on track and you were like, oh man, I'm not as fat? Because I think in that first day, um, I think you kind of did you think when you came into this event, you were kind of looking at it as like, this is my huge opportunity? Like this was an event that opportunity was available to you?
For sure. Absolutely. And it, I totally agree with Josh's sentiment that y- getting a win is fantastic. Getting a first win, right? And I think that anybody who even podiuming in grid life, Isaac just shows up and does it like it's nothing, congrats to him. But like for most people, right? Like for me, and I think a lot of people have this journey of you come into grid life and very few people are able to come in and just have a car that is competitive right away. And so it takes some time. And then you sort of, right, even getting that first podium, you realize like there's a lot of work and a lot of time that goes into it. And then you realize to even get a win is even harder. So, for me, like I am super happy, super happy that I got the win. With that being said, I also realize, and to a degree, I'm strategic about it. I know that a lot of the regular guys don't travel out here to California, and that's their loss because Laguna is a fantastic track and it's a great atmosphere, and I think that more people should do it. With that being said, I knew that a lot of the fast guys weren't going to be out here, but that doesn't mean that other fast people won't show up. But I at least knew that there's less likelihood of 3 or 4 Corvettes showing up that make the climb that much harder. But with that, to your point about the first day, we were struggling a little bit, and I was really expecting like, okay, I ran a 36.2, I think was my fastest time last year. And, I was like, okay, first couple sessions, I should be meeting that mark if pretty easily. And the first 2 sessions, that was not happening. Even the third session, I was at a 36.0, which I was happy about, but I was still in second place. And I was like, all right, like Charles Kunau and another M4, he came to play. He's not messing around. And so I was super impressed that he was able to lay down that quick of a time that early. it definitely made me concerned. Those concerns eased a little bit as the weekend went on because he really wasn't able to match that time again. Or he matched it, but he really wasn't able to better it that much. But yeah, that first day, like I was like, okay, like it's not going to be easy. We got some fast cars here, so yeah, you're absolutely right. I was sweating a little bit, no doubt about it.
I mean, it was definitely a big game on situation, and big props to Charles and all the STC guys for coming out. I mean, I can say this: Charles really came in swinging hard to start the event. But like you said, I'd be curious. I just don't know. I sadly I didn't get a time to sit down with Charles and really talk about his driving. Talk to him about a lot of
Yeah.
other things, but not his driving. Interestingly enough, but I'd be curious to know like what if he ran like the same set of tires for the entire weekend, if he did swapping, if whatever the case may be. But it seemed like he kind of hit that plateau and then just kind of stayed there. And maybe it had something to do with a bunch of people hitting walls. That can slow people down a little bit. Obviously,
Yeah.
I do want to touch just quickly on Robin Schutz's incident. Video came out today, and he posted today that he is all right. He does have, I believe it said he had a couple of broken vertebrae or something in his back, like broke some bones. And he's going to be on the mend for weeks. But just want to say, like, he is okay, and but that was a very, very scary incident of his car coming down the front straightaway. I can't. It's hard to tell even by the video if a wing failure or something, but the car essentially went from how you normally see a car to a more vertical maneuver, and then it's slapping back down, and that causing obviously a lot of damage to his body by it slamming down like that. That is not a good feeling, but we're really happy to hear that he is doing okay. And to that same effect, it was good to see, Jackie Ding in his M2, he did hit the wall. Lelouch also had a little wall incident, and all those guys were okay. Everything was good with those guys as well. So it's just good to see, safety. This is why, like, me and Kilgore have talked about this in previous, like, this is why it is important, and it is important for the organizations to care about the participants' safety. The tracks also have to care about their own safety and the walls and stuff like that. But just like anything else, like, this is amateur racing, and we aren't going wheel to wheel, but it's easy to have these incidents, and they can be very, very big, and they can be at very high speeds, shown by Robin Schutz. And so we have to ensure that we're getting the proper safety gear, Hans devices, halo seats, getting all those harnesses, all those things done correctly, so that our safety matters, because we all want to be able to go back home and get to work the next day, or to school. So yeah. But back to it, guys. Sorry, that was my little safety spiel for the day. We'll get away from that now. But again, man, like, Charles was definitely laying it down. The Street GT class as a whole was pretty tight. But I will say Kilgore seemed to have a pretty solid advantage in the Street GT class, as one of the main competitors in that class. What are you currently what's the overall standing for you, Kilgore, right now?
Fourth.
Fourth overall?
And came into that. So actually, after Lime Rock, at Lime Rock, I really needed to either win that event or be second, and I ended up third, and that sort of solidified my position, which is good. Like, obviously, Luke McGrew, we love that name, old Luke McGrew. He has put up a perfect season in his C6 Z06 with four wins and 4 records. So, or I think that's right. At least 3 records, maybe even 4. So he's got like 103 or 104 points. And then it's really been sort of a battle between Nick Hendricks, Ryan Matthews, and myself. I did 6 events this year, 5 podiums, and I'm going to end up 4th in the championship, right? So it's like, It's tight, super competitive. It's unfortunate. That's the way it happens, but at the same time, this is my second year with GridLife. If you would have told me if you would have told me at the beginning of the year that I'm going to end up with 5 podiums, including at least 1 win, I would have been like, heck yeah, like that sounds like a fantastic year. So won't get a trophy at the end of the year, but that's okay. It is what it is. So congrats to those guys. It'll be interesting to see what happens there's one more race at Pitt. And so I think that for Street GT, Luke, Nick, and Ryan will all be there. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, how that event plays out, and how it affects the year-end standings.
So, Josh, I just want to ask you a few questions as just an understanding. What is your time attack history? Where did you start at? And you said you've been doing it for quite some time, so educate our viewers.
I started doing HPDE, and I actually went to a GridLife Midwest Festival just like as a spectator, and that was kind of around when I had just started doing HPDE and started doing GridLife events when they had open track stuff. And at the time, I looked at what was called HPDE Plus as a time attack class, and there were people running, Subarus and Evos and stuff, and I was like, I'm only a second or two off of those times, so started competing and started doing better and better, I guess, until I think 2019. I kind of had like a lucky championship win because the points were weird at the time, where like I went to an event no one else went to, and for some reason that gave me way more points for that event than everyone else. Then 2020, 2021, 2022, I was a season champion, and then these last couple years have had some really, really fast drivers, and I haven't had as good of luck. So, like right now, I am doing everything I can to try to win the season championship this year. But there's a really, really good driver named Andy Holst with a very nice Evo that has beaten me twice, and so I have to pretty much beat him at the final event here at Pit Race to be able to win the championship. So I kind of have to go because either he doesn't show up and I win, or he shows up and he wins. So we got to kind of fight it out at this last one.
Hey, that makes it even better for all of us because we're hoping both you guys show up and you have to duke it out and do everything you possibly can to get that win to mean the overall winner.
Well, so just to make it more entertaining, so like I know that you have to try to win. Like GridLife is very, very competitive, right? Like you're not gonna show up, at least at my level, with just a good car and beat everyone because your car is good. Like you got to drive really well. You got to have a well set up car. And so I was like, I think he's a phenomenal driver. I think he's a better driver than me. And I think his car is probably as good or better than mine too. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. And so I told myself, I was like, I'm going to read some books about driving, try to work on that. And I wake up like an extra hour early before work every day to do like some sim racing because I don't have time otherwise. And I'm just trying to do like everything I possibly can. Like, luckily for me, our team is going to pit race for a champ car race this weekend. So I'm like, well, got to go for that, get extra laps in. So I go do that. And I'm just trying everything I possibly can because I know that if I don't put in the effort, it's probably not going to work out for me. And if it does, I'll know it was probably because I did everything I could to, set myself for success. So
how did you get how did you get hooked up with Turn In? I've been with that team this year, and I guess I don't even really know.
Well, so for the longest time, basically my dad and I were just like going to GridLife events, camping in a tent. And back when GridLife had open track days or HPDE, he would drive it in advanced class, like in HPDE, and I would drive in time attack. And so the car was getting like, I don't know what it was, 2 hours of track time a day. And there would be times where he would pull into the pit and I would jump in the car and go out for time attack. And we did that for a long time. And when it went pretty well until I convinced him, like, if you take a GC and put all the STI stuff in it, it'll be just as fast as my car for cheaper, probably. And so then we kind of started doing that. And I met Pete Peter Zhang through, GridLife because we had a very similar car for a number of years, and we kind of talked. And then it basically got to the point where, I realized that Turning Concepts was very knowledgeable. It had a lot of experience dealing with Subarus and setups like mine. And, it just gets to a certain point, you get competitive enough where it's very, very difficult to be a solo guy doing all the wrenching on your car, knowing every single detail about how to make your car fast and trying to do all this stuff without any extra hands, like between sessions or something. I mean, there was a time where I was trying to get points for the championship. And so Tony, who's the owner of Turning Concepts, and I were like co-driving for a weekend. And I was at a medical conference and I couldn't get there right away. And so he broke my transmission while he was driving it. And him and my dad changed the transmission in the car in like under 2 hours in the dark at Midwest Festival. And that's not something that like I don't have the expertise for it. My dad and I probably couldn't do that together, but Tony's probably taken hundreds of transmissions out of Subarus. My dad's done it out of mine, I don't know, 10, 15 times. So they were just like, they probably didn't even say anything. They're probably just like, yep, this bolt, that bolt, that bolt, that bolt, like in and out.
Dude, I'd love the fact. So going back to what you said earlier, I love the fact that you talked about the dedication that you're having to put in to get to a point that you feel like you could win the championship with. And I want to stress this, and I really want to stress this to people to let them understand and think about this, because this is what it takes to be a champion in these competitive championships, right?
Sure.
You're not just sitting here waiting around for, to show up to an event and, oh yeah, I put my car together last minute and then we showed up to this event and we won. Like it's not happening like that. It's taking a ton of time and dedication and time away from, some people would say like time away from your friends and your family and your job and all of those things. And I think we talked about this a little bit at the event itself. You're talking about a situation, all three of you, right? So Kilgore lives in Tennessee. Isaac, you live in Texas. Josh, you live in
Alabama.
You guys all just went to GridLife Laguna Seca. That's not like a 3-hour drive. So you guys dedicated your time, effort, and money to get cars from those locations to Laguna Seca, drive a track. By the way, you're going to get there essentially Thursday, and you're going to drive Friday, Saturday, Sunday to then head back home, maybe Sunday night at best, maybe Monday morning, and then fly home or drive home. Like the amount of time and dedication just for the event itself pales in comparison to the amount of time and energy that you guys have to spend to prepare yourselves. You have to essentially go to these different tracks. You have to use sim racing. You have to use all these things at your fingertips to ensure that you have the capability to set the record or to get the win. I guess I really want to stress this to people who are thinking about joining Time Attack and thinking about how easy, quote unquote, this might be. And if you want to enter and have fun, super easy. Like enter and have fun, this is a cakewalk. Like we can all do that. If you want to enter and win, whole nother level, whole nother aspect of how you're trying to get from A to B. So I just want to stress that to our listening viewers here. But yeah, that's super cool. I love the fact that you're going in there and doing that. Obviously yourself, you're using Turning Concepts this degree, and Kilgore's doing the same thing. Now he's utilizing their services and helping him get his car to events and ensuring, I bear witness to, them helping him, do tire pressures and get the car set up and, actively saying like, hey, maybe you should try this or do this. And just be able to bounce those ideas off each other. And I think that's a huge component to this. What do you guys think? What do you think, Kilgore?
There's so many levels to it. What you immediately just said, which is, right, you don't have to necessarily have like a team, right, to be able to bounce ideas off of each other. If you just have buddies that are there, right,
Yeah.
that is a good starting point of, especially if you have the same cars. And I think Josh was sort of talking about this earlier with Peter Zhang. find people if you go to events, find people with similar cars and talk to them. Especially if you're having issues, be like, hey, I'm having an issue. Have you ever dealt with this? We had a guy, Randy, who was running in an Secure Orange F80 M3. He came by. He was having some DCT issues. I wasn't immediately it didn't immediately come to my mind what the issue could be. He went and talked to the SDC guys, the SoCal Drivers Club guys, which is Charles and Chris and those guys running their M3s and M4s, and they were having the same issue. And basically, they were getting transmission faults because they hadn't overfilled their transmission pan. I wasn't running into that issue because I had upgraded to a larger capacity transmission pan, right? So that's just one of those things that I had done earlier last year. But just having those people around to talk to, tire pressures, who's running similar tires, cars, as well as setup, as well as lines that they are taking, things like that. It's extremely, extremely beneficial. There's another layer to that, which happened to me earlier this year at, I think it was Mid-Ohio. Yeah, it was Mid-Ohio. That was the first race where we had actually gotten my high boost map functioning correctly. As soon as we did that and I went out, I immediately blew a charge pipe. And what actually happened is that the charge pipe that actually went to the turbo side, it actually stripped the bolt. There was not a coupler; it's a hard connection, and so it had actually stripped. It had actually stripped the bolt out. I mean, I'm pretty mechanically inclined. I feel comfortable working on the car. But again, having someone there of Tony's knowledge and skill, he had this it's super tight. He had this 90-degree drill that fit perfectly where he needed it to. He also, because it's at a turbo inlet, so he put a little bit of oil into the hole. He drilled out the hole. He retapped it. And then he had a screw of the proper size to fit in it. And honestly, if that had happened to me, I probably would have just called the weekend and been like, I don't really know what to do, because I'm not sure I would have felt as comfortable in the paddock doing all of that, much less having the proper equipment and tools and everything there to really do it. But again, this isn't necessarily a team thing. Having just people there to support you is really important. And I'll say I saw that again, or at least I heard of it again this weekend at Laguna. Mike Burrows in the K-swapped Ferrari blew his transmission, and he was ready to call it a weekend, but his buddies were there, and they were like, "No, dude, we can do this. Let's get on the phone." They started calling around. They found a transmission. A buddy was coming up from SoCal. He went by, grabbed the transmission. He got up there 3 hours later. They worked through the night. And again, to Josh's point, if you're just a solo guy, you're like, well, I'm done. I'm just going to pack up and I might as well go home. But when you have friends there, when you have buddies, when you have a team, you have those extra hands. You also have that motivation. You also have, maybe some people who are talking a little bit of insanity to you and getting you on board with doing it, right? But it's that again, and Jager, you said this, those are some of the best times. Would you want to do it now these days? You're like, I don't know, but you have such good stories and good times with your friends being like, dude, you remember when we stayed up all night changing your transmission and you got back out there? So absolutely, it's vital to me to have friends, a team, people there with you. Not that you absolutely show up. You, first and foremost, show up. But if you can, one, show up by yourself and you'll make friends.
Yeah.
And two, once you start getting that community, it becomes a whole lot of fun.
So, Isaac, I know you have community, man. So do us a favor. Tell us a little bit about your team, your people, your stuff.
Okay, so for a little backstory, originally it was just like a me and my dad kind of duo thing, you know. We came
Which
out
was
to
cool as hell
finals.
to start with,
Yeah,
by the
yeah,
way.
yeah. Yes. So we came out to finals 2023 together. He brought this car that's behind me, and I brought the Supra. Like both original, like nothing we didn't pick apart anything. It was just kind of like stock stuff, you know. And we came out and I got 7th and he got like 13th in limited or something like that. Which was we did both pretty good. It was super fun. We came out with the whole family. We always come out with the whole family and just good times all around. Button Willow has a vibe to it, like a cookout kind of vibe. So we were just outside and just vibing, you know. And it was actually Joel that kind of influenced us to go because he had done a super lap battle that year, and we are like, oh, why not? So we came out with the little experience we had, and we had a good time at finals. And going into 2024, Super Lap Battle kind of did the same thing, but we also brought the Rigo's Garage guys with us. So we had a whole garage about like well those two garages at Coda, and just we were all wrenching together, having a good time. And Joel unfortunately had his incident that year, so Joel was kind of catering to us a little more, and it was good to have him on our side. Obviously, we didn't want that to happen to him, but it was cool. So throughout the year, when we went to like PPIR and Southwest Speed Fest, Joel was always just kind of there, helping us, and we would just help him with this, help him with that. He'll help us over here. Of course, we'll help out with the Rigo guys, and it slowly became a little team. Um, my dad wasn't able to he didn't want to compete anymore. He was all like, you know what, let's focus on you, let's build you. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Which made me kind of sad because I really loved their story coming in into GTA, like kind of the father son duo, and it was really cool. But of course, it's very expensive trying to maintenance both cars. And
Yeah.
yeah, so going mid 2024, we stopped kind of working on the Porsche and more working on the Supra, and we were just building and a lot of R&D, you know? So we came into 2024 finals, and my dad wasn't able to go because he wanted to throw a little something for my little brother over here in El Paso. And Joel was all like, let's go. And I was like, I'm down, let's do it. So
You got that
one
little
of our
devil on your
sponsors,
shoulder. Little
yeah,
devil Joel on your shoulder.
yeah. So our sponsor, Florida's Energy Services, they were all like, "We'll pay for your registration. We'll pay for your garage." And I met them through Joel. Actually, I don't even know if they cater to Joel a lot. They cater more towards me, which is it's kind of funny because they knew Joel first. But yeah, so they were all like, "Yeah, we'll pay entry fee for finals and your garage space." And I was like, "Let's do it." So me and my dad and one of our close friends, Mark, which was at Laguna, we kind of worked on the Supra here. We had put that one splitter that unfortunately broke on us over there, and we upgraded our wing to all the Spage parts we have on now. And we went out there kind of rushing the car, and yeah, we went out there. Joel found out like a bunch of our suspension parts were kind of loose and stuff like the first time at Bun Willow, which is kind of crazy. So me and Joel were just kind of like basically we had the car opened up at Button Willow and we were just wrenching all day. And then on the practice day our splitter came apart. So I don't know if you remember, but we were up
Was it
till
what
like
did it
maybe
wait. Did it come apart or did you disintegrate it?
so okay, so let me tell you let me tell you the whole backstory. Let me tell you a little backstory. So on that I believe it was Friday, right? Friday practice day at finals. Um I guess the pucks were a little too much for the splitter and it kind of opened up a little slit in the splitter, in the carbon splitter. And we came in and yeah, it was basically opened up. You were able to see the foam inside, but I hadn't gone off or anything. And we are kind of like, what do we do? We spent so much time on the splitter, putting it, and the race bed catered to us and gave us the mounting points for the splitter because that carbon splitter, I'm not gonna name which company, but they didn't give us anything. They didn't give us mounting points. They didn't drill holes for us. Just a blade in the tunnels, which was not what we asked for. We asked for the whole kit, you know. So we kind of had to like Frankenstein a splitter together with the wing too. It was another company's wing, but we used Spage's uprights and end plates and stuff. So the car was kind of just like it wasn't in its peak shape, you know. And yeah, so that night we opened up the splitter and yeah, it was toast, man. And it was sad because I hadn't done anything to it. I had barely ran like a 155 that day too. I wasn't even pushing. So I came in and we were just like, oh man, what do we do? So we packed up our bags, went to Home Depot, and we got like those quarter-inch plywood like blocks, you know, and we made our own splitter. And that's when the second day I messed that one up. But yeah, uh through the through the through the season we kind of became a team, me and Joel. Super Lap Battle, we came out with like the same livery, which we actually designed on Gran Turismo. Uh, Joel was like, I want a
Nice.
livery design. He's like, design me one. I was like, okay. And we weren't sort of like a team yet, but he was working on my car, we were working on his, and I was like, I'm gonna make it look like mine. So on Gran Turismo, I basically copied the Supra onto the Type R, but I was like, you know, it would look cool. I think chrome would look super cool on it. So I threw chrome on it. And yeah, it came to life like literally 3 days later. We sent it over to our design guy, OmniWorks, and yeah, he got it done in over a week, like less than a week, honestly. And we came out to Super Lap Battle together as a team. And after his turbo shenanigans, he kind of was all like, "Okay, let's try to get as close to Kyle as we can." And yeah, ever since then, we just kind of became more than family. You know, it's honestly amazing. Um, but yeah, it was great
That's
finally coming together.
Dude, I love that, right? It's people you're meeting like-minded people, and then you're getting these people that are, motivators. Joel is a huge motivator. He's active, he's very knowledgeable, and he's got a ton of energy. I see all of his social media posts. I believe, I could be wrong. I think he's a diesel, like out in the oil fields mechanic type guy.
Yes,
Dude's
yeah.
a hard worker, dude. So it's awesome to see him taking the time, and you guys all working together and getting stuff done. But dude, it's so cool to see like a group of guys coming together. And again, kind of like what Josh is talking about, what Kilgore is talking about, getting with like-minded people, working together to get to a common goal. That's what makes it really cool. Like, I enjoyed just hanging around the Turning Concepts area there, to see how they were helping each individual person and work through everything and get ideas and so on and so forth. And I know, Josh helped Kilgore look at data and go through some of that stuff. So Josh, how good or bad was Kilgore's data?
It was pretty good. I mean, we were running pretty similar min speeds through a lot of the corners. He was faster than me in a couple of them, and then I was faster than him in a couple of them. And so I'm like, if you're running faster than me in like these certain corners, I'm like, you've got it in these other ones, you know? And I was also pretty jealous because I was like, how does your car brake so well? Like mine, I'm always so worried I'm just gonna fly off the track. And like seriously, because there's a point when I think like Lime Rock where they were talking about fire laps and how you could look at people's like brake G forces, and they're talking about how certain people were like super duper high. And in Road America, they said Pete Granberg had like the highest brake G force of anyone whose data they looked at. And I bet Mark probably would have beaten Pete out because he was like negative 1.4 Gs at one point, and I had never seen that in any of the data I looked at on anyone else, at least in a time attack car. And so I was like, man, I wish my car would stop like that. But that was with like pads that were falling apart and the back like deformed and stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
that was pretty impressive because we looked at that data and then he was like, yeah, I put new pads. I was like, that was with the old pads? That's pretty good.
Just to talk to that a little bit, Mark, give us a little bit of an idea of what was going on with your brake pads.
I don't even know, man. Um, so I had just been because I tapped the wall at Lime Rock, and then we sort of had to redo the front suspension on the passenger side. I took the time to, famous words, while we're in there, why don't we the OEM dust boots on the that probably came on the car when it was stock, in 2015 when it rolled off the showroom floor. They were all cracked and just, just all sorts of beat up, right? Like, they weren't really doing much. And so I had been sort of meaning to upgrade to what is supposed to be, an upgraded version. So I got new pistons to go into the calipers, and then it also was supposed to come with these high temp silicone dust boots. And so Turn-In Concepts, those guys, put in those new the upgraded piston package, and we the first day, again, it's not all that unsurprising. The first day I was having a little bit of, like, the first session, the brakes felt terrible. It was a long pedal, kind of soft. I'd have to kind of pump the brakes, like if I pump the brakes a little bit, like, it would definitely firm up, but just very inconsistent. And so not all that unsurprising, considering we had the whole front end at least on one side apart. And so we rebled the brakes again, and that actually solved the issue quite a bit. Still a little bit of inconsistency, but after the third session, where, like, I really hammered on the car, I ended up running that 136.0. Brought the car back in, and that evening we were kind of taking some stuff apart. I was rotating the tires, just kind of checking things over, and I noticed that, like, literally coming out of the brakes, there was like a sort of these white, like, smoke marks that were on the brake. They were, like, on the brake caliper coming out from the brake pads, and I was like, "What is that?" And so, like, I started looking, and, like, I looked at the brake pads, like, there was this, like, terrible taper on the brake material itself. And I had brought a new set of front brake pads because I knew that those were getting a little low, and I wanted to have them there just as a backup. And so we took the front pads out, and the passengers, or the passenger side, I don't know why. The passenger side on the outside was just, it had everything. As Tony said, he was like, if there are things that can be wrong with a brake pad, this has all of the things wrong with a brake pad. The material was, like, all cracked. It had bad taper, and then even the backing plate was warped. Just from and I think part of it was probably the new pistons, just because, it was new, and they were applying a lot more pressure to the backing plate. And because there wasn't a ton of material, you were getting a lot of heat sink from the brakes through the material into the backing plate. And, like, you were even having some of the brake material come through the backing plate. Like, it just looked awful. I took some pictures. I'll have to post them up on my Instagram at some point. But I tell you what, as Josh said, like, when I put those new brakes on, oh man, like, did the car feel 10 times better. And so, with that being said, the first session out on Saturday with the new brake pads ended up, I think, running that 135.2, which was my fastest lap of the weekend. Yeah, it's one of those things where, again, like, you got to stay on top of those things during the weekend, and constantly be checking those things out. But yeah, like, it was some of the worst brake pads I've ever seen on my car. And Tony was like, "If you decide to keep this car, we need to do an upgrade on your brakes next year." Yeah, pushing 600 horsepower out of the engine is definitely not what the stock brakes were meant to handle.
Here at the Perfect Lab Podcast, we're happy to introduce Whoosh Bespoke Wheels as a sponsor of the show. Whoosh Bespoke was born out of necessity. Their race team struggled to find wheels that offer the perfect fit, strength, durability, and that big old thing, a reasonable price. The people behind Whoosh Bespoke are racers and engineers seeking engineering excellence, and they offer precision forged wheels crafted by racers for racers, with a product lineup that includes a wide range of options from monoblock to modular wheels, including 2- and 3-piece wheel designs. All engineered from the finest materials, although they do primarily use 6061 T6 forged aluminum but they do offer things as high of quality as a magnesium alloy. So this really can work for any setup you're trying to go for. Customization is at the heart of what they do. At Whoosh Bespoke, you can tailor your wheels with custom sizes, offsets, finishes, and even options like custom lettering, adding two-tones. Their colors include both standard and premium finishes, as well as special finishes like brushed, hand-polished, and even paint to sample. Every set of wheels produced exceeds the JWL standards and meets the rigorous WCEC quality standards, and they are tested by real people with real cars racing all around the world. And guess what? Me and Kilgore, we're also going to be part of that team, so we're going to be putting these things to the test. We're putting them on our cars. Kilgore's going to be repping out and going through all the time attack season. I'm going to be beating them up at HPDE days and just having a good time with them. So I want you to go take a look at them and make sure you give them a follow on all their socials. It's whooshautomotive.com, Whoosh Automotive on all the socials. Go check them out. All right, guys. So we're going to go through a little quick thing. I want to talk about all the different classes, kind of use you guys as a sounding board a little bit. Go through a little bit of the classes, and then I really want to get into details of the Podium Sprint. So, all right. Club SC, new record from Mike Jansen. Club SC with a 149.65. Second place, we had Sam Doolin with a 149.8. So 0.2 of a second delta there. Pretty much to almost the T. Courtney Ward with a 158.5, so a bit of a delta on third place as a whole. Going into Club TR, Mario Marone. I did get an interview with Mario. He talked about a little bit of his success in that car. He did say something about maybe changing it up a little bit in the near future, so that'll be kind of interesting. But he has a new record in Club TR with the front-wheel drive record of a 137.586, and he did take home first place as an overall in Club TR. Alex Fregazzo, Club TR as well in his RSX, got second place with a 139.2. Jared Ramirez in his GR86 rear-wheel drive car, 140.0. So a pretty close competition there as a whole. Nothing too bad. 3 seconds as a whole separating 1 through 3. Okay, Josh Halka. So as we talked about before, he took home first place. Although to his own disappointment, not a record, but he'll be back for some more at a later time. Will Dries did take home a record in front-wheel drive in street class with his Elantra N. I did spend some time talking to him that weekend. Interesting story, obviously, as a lot of you guys already know. Will Dries wrecked the previous Elantra N at, which one was that? Road America. And so, interesting difference in details, things like that car was a 6-speed, this one is a DCT, and apparently if you get the DCT, you also get a sunroof, so it adds more weight, and it's weird because you get less, I think he said you get less horsepower with the DCT as well, or there was a combination of weirdness with like the difference between a stick and DCT. So they were having a lot of fun, interesting things. They had a lot of like teething problems. They did put a wider tire than they've ever run on that car before, which I'm actually super impressed that they could be this. I mean, that kind of sounds weird, but the car is not overly modified. His car running a 138.5, so just shy or just over 2 seconds off Josh's time, but he did get a record in front wheel drive. We do have a plan to get Will Dries on to talk a little bit about his overall grid life season and how that's panned out and how interesting that has been for them this year.
What engine does the Elantra have? Josh, do you know? Or is that like a turbo engine?
It is turboed. Yeah. I do not know my Hyundais as well as maybe I should nowadays.
Yeah. And does Street have the all-wheel drive, like front-wheel drive offset? Where Josh, you're at a 255 tire size?
Everyone except all-wheel drive can run 285 wide, and all-wheel drive is 255.
Dang, there's
Interesting,
wait. Bring that back for like 2 seconds. So they're letting everybody else run 285s, and you are stuck with 255s.
Yeah, and we keep talking about that, being like, I honestly don't know that there are many situations in time attack these days, at least, where that's like, that all-wheel drive has that much of an advantage that having an extra basically inch of tire is handicapping it to disadvantage us. Because man, like my car could use some more tire, that's for sure. And I mean, given in street class, like, I mean, all-wheel drive's been winning for a number of years, but even in street mod, um, you know, Dewey is, I think, a season champion at this point, as far as I know, and he's on 255. Same thing in street mod. All-wheel drive has to run 255, and then rear and front-wheel drive can run 285.
Man, I didn't realize Dewey's still stuck on 255s.
Yeah.
I thought they had at least, at a minimum, had moved those up to 265s. Wow.
Nope.
Okay.
Which,
Well,
again,
man.
what and let's throw a wrench in this. For Street GT, all cars can run 315s. So like
Don't even get me started on that, making my Mustang completely uncompetitive on every single level on the planet.
I know, but oh gosh, I could see his face. Gosh, why can I not think of his name?
Because you haven't said what he drives yet.
It's a GTR. Connor Gallagher. And the GTR can run 315 squared.
Yeah.
So again, we all need to help against Corvettes, but yeah, it's just it's interesting how they've I'm not exactly sure the rationale behind certain classes, but yeah,
rules are meant to be challenged and then maybe changed. So back at it, Rafael Guerrero, he street all-wheel drive in his Model 3, coming in at 138.9. So again, between Josh there and second and third, there was about a 2-second gap. Wildry's barely edging out Rafael in that Model 3. Some shout out to Luke Lederman in his Cayman, ran a 139.0. That car is very, very stock. I would have to say that might be a solid weapon of choice for someone in the future. Josh, what's your thoughts?
I've been wanting to get a Cayman for a while, and they kind of closed a door a little bit in that there was this weird gray area where if you ran aero off a higher trim level that wasn't technically allowed in the class, it was fine. So, like, for example, someone would take like a SS Camaro and run ZL1 aero on it. And so like a Cayman, you'd run like GT4 aero or something like that. And that was open for a while, and it hadn't really been pushed that hard, and they kind of closed that door. Brad Moore's been running a Cayman very successfully this season, and I haven't talked to him a whole lot, but I've heard that he's had a lot of issues with it. And all the times I've talked to Tony about this, because I ask Tony questions probably 20 times a day via text, and they're usually just random questions. He probably just gets so annoyed with me, but I'm like Caymans, for instance, he always says like you have so much trouble cooling that like 2.5 turbo engine on the track. And so if someone could figure out how to do that and make the right amount of power, it would probably wreck street class, because like we just talked about, 285 tires, a good chassis. And in my mind, if you ran the PDK, like, you are in power all the time,
it is a little surprising
to buy a Cayman, and it'll be here in like 2 days.
Oh yeah.
Is it the what engine options come in the Cayman?
Well, so I think the best way to do it, from the little bit of research I'd done, is there's a 2.5 liter turbo, which was kind of like in the box I rented this last weekend for Laguna. And it sounds kind of like a Subaru, but that engine, it doesn't seem like anyone's been able to get it to run on E85, but you can get it to a like certain blend of ethanol. And I don't know, Brad probably could tell you much better than me, but I don't know, you get it to like E30 or E50 or something, and you're doing in the kind of low to mid 400s, but it's just very, very difficult to get that car to cool. Like, I heard he was doing something where he had like an ice box in the front of that car, and he had a pump trying to pump it like through the car to cool it down, and then that pump would fail, and so he got another pump to that pump, and like, that kind of crazy stuff to try to get it to work. But
With enough
yeah.
ingenuity, you can solve all problems. So it's just a matter of how much time, effort, and money you want to put into it. But I'll be curious. Luke did throw down some really good. I mean, a 139 in that car with basically, when I talked to him, he had like lowering springs, wheels, and tires. I could be mistaken a little bit. So Luke, you can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But I think that's pretty much it. And he ran a 139.0, which is a pretty stellar time. But man, super
I
cool.
mean, I'd love to know, because like my idea would be, I would just love to take that car, get the right tires on it, right tire size, and then like a off the shelf tune or something. Like I think APR makes a tune for those,
Cobb makes
and
an
just like,
aftermarket tune for it.
or Cobb or
Eckler Sport.
something, and just get it like within a reasonable, gap of whatever the front runners are running, and see what it could do. Because I think it would be like guaranteed podium sprint every time probably. And depending on the track and depending on who's there, like, podiuming very regularly if someone was driving one of those.
Pretty freaking cool.
Do it.
Obviously, so now we go into Street GT, where Mark took home a sweet first place finish with his 135.2, beating out Charles. Good old Charles from STC with a 136.0, a valiant effort from Charles and his crew. They really put in a lot of effort. And this is just, by the way, 1 through 4, all M cars, by the way. M4, M4, M2, M3. Number 3 spot, Joe Drain. He took home a 138.77. And then I'm going to go down to another Cayman from Uni. She ran a 138.0 in her 718 Cayman in that class as well. So a pretty stout time there from Uni. I did just watch a video before I got on here. So we watched her spin and almost come in contact with the front wall on the front straight. And apparently what had happened through her lap, she ended up in some sort of like suspension, limp mode, something. And so it shut down some of the assets for that car, like probably the torque vectoring, yawing, some of the aspects of that make Porsche a Porsche. And so she came into that corner without realizing that, and when she came out of it, it showed all of those ugly characteristics that it does, and led her. But luckily, she was able to be unscathed and get out of that situation, and come home with a 5th place in the podium sprint because of that. Then we'll get on to Street Mod, which I have to say, and this is just immense, there was 24 competitors in Street Mod. 24 competitors. That is a huge amount of competitors in Street Mod. And I will say this, looking at the lap times, we start at Luca, and it's a 130.3, setting a new rear-wheel drive record from Luca Barberis, and it does kind of stretch out. Now, I will say, from Luca to Larry Chen, that's 20 positions. That is a 10-second gap, or I should say 9-second gap. So not super compacted and tight, but pretty dang close. The top 5 were separated by less than 2 seconds. So for the podium sprint, which included Luca, our guy Isaac here, Kai, Cal, and Opie. Wow, what a name fiasco we have going there. Kai, Cal, Opie, Isaac, and Luca. That was less than 2 seconds. I love our man Jamie Santos, so I'm going to give him a huge shout out, as well as Mike Reyes. Sky Chan has been all over the time attack world in recent years, and I'm going to give a huge shout out to the obvious of Lelouch. Lelouch had a bad incident as well, tearing up somebody else's splitter. But shout out to him for coming out and have a good time. Mike Reyes, I'd like to kind of understand what happened to Mike. Usually he throws down some really good lap times. I think he just had a really off weekend and it just didn't work out. Jamie obviously had a bad weekend that ended with his car not fending so well and didn't end well for him. But yeah, Isaac, man, so you came home with a 131.5 in that GR Supra of yours, pushing the limits of what you could accomplish, doing a great job there. Really appreciate that. Kai Anderson right behind you, though, 131.6. So just beating him out
Oh,
by
man.
less than a tenth. Like that.
Was that
And then
was that the C8 Corvette with the big
That was
wing?
the
I think
that was the black C6 with the APR wing. He came in third.
Okay.
But I gotta say,
Gotcha.
if Jamie didn't have those problems, it would have been super tight. I know that the black C6 was having coolant issues on the podium sprint, and I know that Fortner wasn't 100% either. So I think if everybody was 100%, it would have been like milliseconds. I believe so. So it was a good fight.
I mean, it was pretty close to start with. I mean, Opie ran a 132.2. He was the furthest away in 5th place. But again, between Cal Fortner and yourself, I mean, literally, I'm looking at these lap times. I think Cal's time is not representative of his podium sprint time because it says a 131.50 and your time is a 135.577. So I think your lap time is your podium sprint time as well as Kai's
Yeah.
time is the podium sprint time.
Yeah. Isaac ran a 31.57 in the podium sprint.
Yeah.
Kai ran a 31.7, 2/10 back. Cal ran a 32.0, so like half a second, basically separated second, third, and fourth, which you love to see it.
Super
Like,
tight.
just love to see it. Love to see that competition.
And then obviously I'm going to throw it out to Johnny Hernandez, who threw down a street mod front wheel drive record with a 136.087 in his Civic Type R. He was able to throw down that lap time pretty, I don't want to say early on in the weekend. I think it was the second day near on the second session, I think it was. He threw down that record. Luca, I think, threw down this record. He might have broke this record a couple of times throughout this weekend. Yeah. I think he broke the first one on the first day or the second day, and then he broke it again. So Luca was just on another plane. Like, he was just getting it. And as we talked about earlier, he also has the technically the record. Well, not technically. He does have the record in street from his Evo as well. So now he owns 2 Laguna Seca records himself.
Yeah. Old Johnny Hernandez has the loudest blow-off valve at the event. My God. He was behind me at one point, and like I'm driving, like we're driving along, and like he's not super close, but I mean he was somewhat close behind me. I was on a cooldown lap, but I was trying to hurry through a couple sections to get out of his way, and like I could literally hear the blow off valve coming, and I was just like, wait, like, is that my car? No, it must be Johnny's. And then as he went by me, like I could hear him, like when he shifted, I was just like, God, that thing was loud.
All right, I'm gonna skip track mod for the moment, and we're gonna move to unlimited. So not a huge surprise here. Mike DeSold took home unlimited rear wheel drive, unlimited overall, with a 125.4 in that badass Camaro that he has built for himself. Left Store took home second place with a 127.2 in his GTR, which I feel like I didn't hear much about Leaf, could be either or. I don't know, Store. I didn't really hear much about him throughout the weekend. I kind of stalked him a little bit here and there. Sadly, I didn't get to talk to him as well. It'd have been interesting to have a conversation with him and to understand more about what that car is and what it does. One of my favorites. So Ryan in his Miata finished third place with a 128.0. That was an awesome story from those guys. They started the weekend with one motor, had some issues with it. They had to pull the motor out, swap the motor. They didn't have a tune for it, so they actually went over to Joshua Briggs. Joshua Briggs was helping them actually tune the car, which, if you guys don't know, Joshua Briggs is also in Unlimited in a Miata. So Joshua Briggs is helping a competitor be more competitive, to which ends up putting Joshua into 4th place, getting Ryan into 3rd place. So kind of and this is kind of what makes Time Attack cool, right? Josh could easily have just said, "Screw you, man. I'm trying to win. I'm trying to get 3rd place. I don't want to see you do that." And I'm gonna say this right now, Joshua and his team, and they had some turmoil as well. They went off on the corkscrew. They had a yard sale of things going off, and it was wild as hell. Actually, it turned out not as bad as I thought. But in an interesting conversation I had with him, apparently their wastegate broke off the car. So he was driving the car. It's a K-Series Miata, by the way. He was driving the car with no wastegate, using his foot to be the wastegate. So he would get into it, and he would have to let off and watch the boost essentially hover, and he would. Could you imagine driving around that track, Josh, with that on your constant thought process in mind with your car as a Subaru?
I wouldn't even know how to do that. I would just assume the engine blew or something, and I don't even know. That makes no sense to me. But
It was an absolute wild conversation. Him talking about they had boost cut at whatever PSI, and so he was just letting it rip, and and he was just in good spirits, having a good time, and he was still going out driving the car, having a good time.
Well, I was trying to figure out how you said his wastegate just fell off.
It broke off.
But then you said it was a K swap, and I was like, oh, okay. Well,
that rattled itself apart.
It rattled itself apart. Yeah, it broke the welds. It just fell off. Yes, makes sense.
And so we have Tom Tang finishing it out through a little bit of investigative journalism. Tom was saying that he had nothing but problems with that car all weekend. Not to say that, they didn't have a good lap time. They did finish with a 133, but they just couldn't get a really great representative lap time of what that car really could do. It sounded and looked great out on track the entire time, but just couldn't get it done. So Cody in open class, so again, we talked about Robin Shoot earlier, which is why, he ended up off everything. Otherwise, he would have probably been a pretty big favorite in this class. Cody in the open class, he ended up with the top spot of a 126.3. Jeremiah Burton from previously Donut Media, now on Big Time. They showed up in their Catfish Camaro, bringing that car out of hibernation, running a 128.8. And Cole Pallison showing up with the Striker. Cole is always a great guy to have on the grid, always cool to have around, and he ran a awesome time of a 134.5 in a very unusual looking, essentially track car, I would say, most people would say. Lots of interesting stuff. Now let's go back just a little bit. We're going to talk about track mod. So to start the conversation, we're going to go with Chris Boersma finishing with a record, breaking the record, getting to a 132.9 in his Honda Civic. I love seeing Chris Boersma out here. Chris Boersma's been doing Time Attack for a really long time. I love seeing those guys. They always put in a ton of effort and just do everything they can to be competitive and just run the hell out of that car. There's a couple other notable mentions here. Alex Bernstein, hate seeing him not make the top 5 just because I absolutely love seeing that car on track. It is such a cool car. Sounds so good. He drives it like a madman. I was kind of sad they didn't let him get into the podium sprint and run because Jackie's car was damaged. I kind of was hoping they would let Alex in just to have some fun with it. Didn't happen, so that's okay, but would have been pretty cool. Again, shout out to Mike Burrows and his Ferrari K-Series Ferrari. They had a lot of fun swapping transmissions and doing all sorts of other good stuff. Again, let's talk about Jackie Ding for a second. He did finish with a 129.7, obviously not in the podium sprint because he didn't able to compete in that. I think he had some more time left in it. It'd have been interesting to see what he could have finished as. But obviously he had his incident. You can go on his YouTube now. One thing I love about Jackie is his, I guess you could say, inability to have a filter per se, but at the same time just being very open, right? It would have been very easy for someone to kind of crumble under that pressure and try to hide away and not post that video. I love, and I say this about I say this about Jackie, I say this about Lelouch, and I say this about Robin. They all did this. They all went online and posted their videos and showed everyone exactly what happened. They'd hidden nothing. And I love that when people are that way, because it allows other people to watch, listen, and learn. I think it does help the community as a whole to see these incidences, to watch Jackie's. You see the car that he's trying to pass on the inside, which, whether his car went into ice mode, whether it was a last lapse of concentration on the driver because it was another car, whatever the case may be, right? It shows of how quickly those decisions have to be made, and how that quick decision making, when it goes wrong, can go so wrong. So I want everyone just to understand that and give Jackie a lot of love for posting that video up and getting out there. Cody in his Corvette.
Hold on, Jaeger. Whoa.
Hit it.
Let me add in one other thing on that, which is I'm glad that he posted that video as well, because, and you should, go watch it, only from a perspective of like, I don't know what I would have done in that situation, going right, going left, you're trying to avoid a car, like trying to make those decisions. But like watching that and kind of seeing like this, like, as you said, the split second decision that he made, if I'm ever in that situation, like hopefully I draw on that experience of, your car, you may have to sacrifice your car to avoid collecting other cars. And so like kudos to him for like being able to react that quickly, understand what was going on, and say like, okay, I need to avoid hitting another car, and basically skipping over the corkscrew. I will also say this, like, dude, there were some there were a lot of photographers around GridLife this weekend. There were some incredible photos. There's one incredible photo of like him airborne, about to nose into the tire barrier, and he was like, we are going to get prints and have posters of this made. If anybody wants to, wants to like order one, I know, like I want to order one of those, and I'm going to find him at the next GridLife event whenever it's ready, and I'm going to have him sign it. Like just like you said, like owning it, and being like, look, I mean, it happens for whatever reason. Don't, whatever the cause was, it happens, and I think that also helps other people in the event that you have an issue, you have a crash. Like, you're not the first one to ever have a crash, right? Like, people who are driving at a high level, they also have mistakes, or the cars have issues that can cause them, to lose control. Like, you shouldn't feel bad about yourself, right? Like those things happen. And so sort of seeing how he handled it, seeing that, even he had a pretty big off with with whatever happened. I'm not gonna say it was a mistake, but just having an issue with the car or himself, those things happen. Like, you just gotta kind of understand it, figure out what happened, learn from it, and then move on.
Absolutely. All right, so Cody Bulkey, he pulled home 4th place in track mod with a 131.0 in his Corvette. Then this is where it starts getting interesting. So Gabe Zamora had a ton of problems with this Porsche all weekend long. He was really struggling. They had to bring up a special Porsche tool gadget thing. Porsche was apparently pissed off that the wheel size was different. I don't know, some crazy, silly stuff. He ended up pulling home a 130.125, which, as we already identified, is actually slower than his lap time last year. Now, I will say this. There are some spicy social media posts going around. I'll let you guys go find that for yourself if you want to go check out Gabe Zamora's page. He is a little upset at life, but I'll let you guys go check that out for yourselves. Maybe we'll end up having some people on, and we can get some both sides of the story and understand what all happened at Laguna Seca. So Callan Spence takes home 2nd place in his Lotus Elise, Interestingly enough, this is where Podium Sprint gets spicy, because Callan Spence set the rear-wheel drive record at a 126.381. Kilgore, is that also an overall record? I'm trying to think. Is that?
No, because Mike Dussault ran a 25.
No. I
Or you
meant
mean
in
for track mod?
Yeah, that is the overall record in
Gotcha.
track mod.
Yes, it is. Yes.
And so he holds the overall record in track mod, but yet he comes home number 2 with Bailey Woods coming home with the number 1 spot with a 128.414. And as he put it, I think he put it in his social media, consistency or something. I think it was consistency meets opportunity. And he takes home the number 1 spot in track mod by just going out and laying down a lap. And I'll be interested. I didn't get a chance to talk to Callan after, but I do wonder if the rules of the Podium Sprint had something to do with this. And I say that because it was a big conversation piece that if you go off and if you have an issue where you go off track and you end up in a situation like that, all of your times are invalidated. You get DNF'd by going 4 off. And in talking with them, originally they were planning on going out and going balls to the wall and trying to set an even faster lap time. They were trying to edge down to a 125. And I don't know if they got into their own heads and worried a little bit too much. So now I want to talk to you guys about Podium Sprint, the stressors of Podium Sprint, and what you guys think of Podium Sprint and GridLife. Isaac, obviously you've only done this one time, so we're going to hit you first. What did you think? How did you react to the concept of running the entire weekend, getting to Podium Sprint for the very first time, and knowing that the lap time you put in, that was going to be essentially the position in top 5 that you were going to end the weekend?
Okay, so to be real with you, going through the weekend, we didn't expect to get on the podium, like I said, but we every session it wasn't kind of like oh, save it for the podium sprint, or like we'll be more safer. We just threw it all in like every single session, and we kept on getting faster. I think there was only one session we went slower. So that Sunday morning, we turned it up all the way, map 4, and we were all like, let's just send it. Let's secure our place in podium sprint, because you never know. So yeah, we were able to get up to
So
4th
Isaac,
place.
a quick pause. We like to be very transparent here at the Perfect Lab podcast. What does 4 get you? What does that actually get you power wise?
Okay, so I was actually gonna gatekeep, but since we're here, I'll get down to it. So we have 4 maps with Go Racebox. The first map we were running about like 530 horsepower, and then the second map is 640. The third map is actually 750. 750. But
Woo!
the fourth map
So what
is
is
the same.
4?
So okay, so let me get there. The fourth map is 750, but it's boost by gear. So that map was specifically made for Coda. So the higher boosts would be obviously like in the 5th, 6th, 7th gear. And technically, map 4 was slower. So once we got into the podium sprint, we were all like, you know what, let's do map 3. Let's do full boost every single gear, And it actually worked out in our favor because coming out of the turns, we have a good sized turbo, and it takes a while for it to spool up, especially on that map 4. So once we turn on map 3, it was an instant, like we were kicking in, and that 3rd to 4th gear helped us a lot through the first, the first sector, the slower corners, I guess you can say, and the turn 11. Coming out of turn 11 is what helped us a lot. But going back to the podium sprint, once it came down to putting a time for the podium sprint, I wasn't too worried. I was actually kind of relieved that we were able to make it, and I don't think I had as much pressure as the guys in the front, because they were like, I want to keep my first, I want to keep my second, I want to keep my 3rd place, I want to stay in the podium. And me, I was more like, whatever happens, happens. I'm already in 4th place. I might get 5th
You had
place.
nothing to lose.
I had nothing to lose, so I was just like, let's send it. 3rd map, let's go, Joel, let's do it. And yeah, like luckily, a little skill too. It was a little luck. You needed a little luck to get on there, honestly, with Fortner and the other Corvette having some issues. But we were able to lay down a really good lap. Actually, our fastest lap of the weekend. So I mean, it goes to show that anything can happen in the podium sprint. And actually, I wasn't really usually before sessions I'm super nervous. Like I'm in the car and I'm like tapping my leg on, and I'm nervous. And this time I really wasn't. I was more calm. But as I was sitting on the pit lane, I would see Kilgore and Charles pass by and I'm like, dude, there's no way we go that fast turn 1. Like it's so crazy. And I was starting to get in my own head. I was like, "Oh my God, like we're going so fast at turn 1." And most of the guys, they don't lift. Going 750 horsepower on that turn 1, it's a wild ride. And to be able to break
Oh yeah.
that corner, it's crazy. So, yeah, but usually once we get on track, like nerves are good. That warm-up lap is nerve-wracking, but once you hit that front straight for the first lap, you're good, you know, and you just lock in.
What did you think of? Because one thing I actually asked Kilgore uh, was, what did he think of the whole grid situation? And I said this to someone else, and I was just kind of recanting in my head. My Subaru, we had full windows, like that was a sweat box. And I remember seeing Kilgore get out, and he just is pouring sweat down his face. Um, and I'm just thinking to myself, the grid situation in that must be murderous, because you guys get gridded up, you get geared up, you go sit, and then you go sit and essentially just watch, like you said, all the other
Yeah.
cars do their session, and they have you gridded up. What is it? Because it's like you're gridded two sessions up before. Essentially, you have like each of the groups, the 5
Yeah, so
cars.
it was street and then street GT. So those 2 sessions while we're going up are already on the pit lane. But the thing that kind of sucks is I turn the heater up all the way, but I send it to like the defroster. So
Yeah.
it makes it kind of hot, and of course wearing a suit,
Oh yeah.
fireproof suit and helmet. Um yeah, I mean it's just like it's just a game, you just got to deal with it. But I guess once you get on the track, you're good. The air hits you a little bit, like you're a little refreshed. But yeah,
All right,
it's all good.
Josh, your turn, buddy. You've been in podium sprint. You've done this thing a ton of times. What's it like to you? You're kind of like an Iceman of some kind. You seem to not be bothered by any pressure. What is it? What's it like to you? What do you think of podium sprint as a whole?
I think the best example I have is there was this event called the Speed Ring a number of years ago. They did it a couple times at M1 Concourse in Detroit, and basically half the event was podium sprints, where they put you in brackets and you would go head to head against one person. Um, and in that event, I think I went into it in second place in our setup and everything, and I was so nervous. And I talked to one of my friends about it, and my friend is like this like certified hypnotherapist, and he like talked me through all this stuff. And after I talked to him, I don't know if he did anything or like it was just all me, but every single lap I put down in that session, that like kind of podium sprint session, was like super easy, didn't try, everything was just super smooth and consistent. And I just always try to go back to that in my head, which was probably, 5 years ago now or something. But I mean, ultimately, I get myself in a position a lot where I'm driving, where I'm trying to set a fast lap. I've got to set this record. I've got to like gain another 2 tenths or something. And it does work sometimes, but most of the time it doesn't work. And most of the time when my fastest laps are set, I'm not trying. Like there was a time I went to Gingerman and I was like the first day of Midwest Fest or something. I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna go out there and just throw something down. And it was like a personal best, like the first session I went out. I'm like, what am I doing? And then like another example is last time Midwest Festival, I was so far behind Andy Holst that I was just like, I'm not gonna win. Like Isaac was talking about. Sometimes there are better positions to be mentally in podium sprint, depending on where you line up, as far as where your times are set. And I was in a position where I was like, not gonna win. He has to screw up. I'm just gonna go out and set some good laps and just be consistent. And during that podium sprint session, Midwest Fest, I set my 3 best laps of the weekend, and they just kept getting faster and faster and faster until I set my best lap on the third one. And so, um, I think it's easy to say if you have something to lose, like, then you're in a much more difficult position where, like, let's say you're in first and, everyone's behind you by, let's say 2/10, 3/10, then you're really worried about it. But, if you're coming into it, number one, from a position of like, um, I've got nothing to lose. I'm going to run some good laps. Then you're going to do much better. But I think the more you can get out of your own head and just know, like, you've been driving this car at this track all weekend long. You've done 20, 30 laps. Like, these 2, 3 laps really don't need to be a lot different than the other ones. And if you can get yourself in that kind of mindset and not get, upset if you throw away a corner or, something happens on the track because you have 3 laps, you can still get yourself some extra ones. I think then you'll tend to do pretty well. This Laguna here was a weird one for me because, I was a good 2 seconds up on second place and I didn't think I had any chance of beating the record at that point, somehow going a second and a half faster in podium sprints. So I was just like, just don't screw up. And I just basically went at it and said, like, just, drive a smooth, easy lap for the most part. And I was able to do that and able to win based off of it. But, um, I think mindset's everything in podium sprints, and it can be very difficult to get in the right mindset for it. But once you do, I think it makes a bigger difference than what your car or the conditions on the track make.
What about you, Kilgore? What's your philosophy? What's your plan? What's your goal going in?
This was the first time that I had been, P1 going into the podium sprint.
So I feel
hair
like,
raising?
Yeah, I mean, a little more tension, sitting there on grid, as both Josh and Isaac have said, there's more at stake. And they even, they mentioned these things on the live stream as well, right? Like the guys at first and second have more to lose. And I think back to even Autobahn, which I was chatting with him over, text message. Nick Hendricks in Street GT, he had set the record. He had been leading all weekend, and then the podium sprint came, and he just couldn't put together a lap, and Ryan Matthews ended up beating him. And so he was like super frustrated, which I get that, right? Like, again, there's just that extra tension. But I think that for me, so normally going into this year, I was sitting third or fourth in podium sprints. And, I just go out and I just throw it down, right? Like I'm just going to run whatever lap I can run, and however the chips fall, like it is what it is. And that's always usually worked out well for me. I usually gain a position in podium sprint. And I'm usually running one of the quickest laps of the weekend for myself. For this one though, it kind of all started just the entire weekend, especially on the second day. Once I ran that like 135.2 and I was really happy with that lap, I started looking, I'm like, okay, Andy Vogel's record is a 33.2. Am I going to pick up like 2 seconds? Probably not. So, I've got another couple sessions. I even have another Sunday morning session, which should be like kind of a prime session. How much do I push and put the car or myself in a bad position and then not be able to perform at podium sprint? And I think this goes back to Jager. You and I talked before the before the Sunday morning session. We kind of came up with the game plan of, I'm going to be buried in the middle of Group B, and it's going to be a bit of a cluster. Like everybody's going to be all over the place. So I pulled Jamie Santos, and I pulled up, and I went to the back of the group, and then I actually sat on pit lane for 3 laps, and I let people get spaced out. A couple people came into pit lane to check tire pressures, and so I used that opportunity to then go out. And Jaeger, what you and I said was, we should really use this session to dial in our tire pressures. Let's make sure we have a target pressure of 32 psi, 31, 32 psi. we've got a tire pressure in mind that we're going to start at. Let's do that. And then let's basically treat that Sunday morning session. Now, granted, the weather's not exactly the same, but this is giving us good data to get set up for the podium sprint, which is the most important. And so, I kind of said, like, I'm not worried about a record. I'm going to use Sunday morning to do a quick out lap and try and do 3 hot laps with no traffic. Let's take tire temperatures, let's take tire pressures, and then we can adjust for the podium sprint, whether we're in the window or not. And so sort of having that a bit of confidence helped going into the podium sprint, where I said, I've done this, 2 or 3 times now. I just need to go out, drive like I've been driving and hit my marks and not try and do anything different. And, I was like, if I hit like a low 36 or even a 35, I'm going to feel pretty comfortable unless Charles just pulls out a screamer of a lap. And if he does, like, congrats to him. Like, man, he deserves it. But I was able to hit that 135.9 and was, like a second or so in the lead, or maybe 0.8 or something like that. So it worked out really well. And again, I think that all goes back to the preparation and being in the right mindset.
So I'm going to ask this question, all 3 of you. Start with Josh. Do you think that podium sprint, and this is kind of my premise here, do you think it is better for the drivers or better for the audience?
I was hoping we'd talk about podium sprint as a format, because the original first year they did it, they had separate practice sessions that didn't count towards podium sprint. You could set a record. And they had 3 qualifying sessions, and then you had to set your time for podium sprints during those sessions. So they had a little bit more stress behind them. And frustratingly, what can happen is, it can happen with any time attack event in general. But if, you had one quali session that had good conditions, that was the only one that mattered. Let's say you had one and then the next 2 it rained. Well, that was the only one that mattered. And so when people had talked about it, we talked about how cool it would have been if you had these quali sessions that maybe somehow like all mattered in some degree. I don't know if they average the times or add them together or something, but I feel like the way they're doing it now, the podium sprint is kind of like an afterthought, and it's just like for the spectators, because you spend this whole weekend running all these lap times, trying to get a fast time, which ultimately don't really matter at all, right? I mean, yeah, you got to get top 5, but the top 5 people, once you get in there, it's like whatever you did the whole weekend didn't really count. Maybe you set a record, like that would be great. But I think that I feel like it should feel like the podium sprint is the race, and you should need to get into the race in some way that wasn't just like a little one-off thing you did. I guess that's my feeling on it. I don't know how. I'm not that happy with the format right now, just because I think you also see situations, and this is time attack, right? This is not a wheel-to-wheel race, where you get people like Jamie or Jackie that are very, very fast drivers of very, very fast cars, and they end up getting knocked out for the weekend, not because they couldn't fix their car, kind of. I mean, yes, theoretically they could have, I suppose, but I mean, I don't know. I think they need to adjust it a little bit more. I don't like where it sits. I liked the old version of it, if you're gonna do that. But now it just seems like an afterthought. Like, we're gonna do some time attack, and then we're gonna do some podium sprint, and it's just kind of 2 separate things.
All right, Isaac. You got a fresh mindset there. What'd you think about it?
So I feel like I can't have much of an opinion because I've only done it for one time. But I can say, like, at the end of the day, the drivers, we're all like adrenaline junkies, and I think that's what gets our adrenaline up, like that podium sprint. So I think it's cool. I agree with Josh a lot of what he says. I've never experienced the old format, but if what I'm hearing from him is that if there was like a qualifying session, like that would make a lot more sense, because you that would cater towards the podium sprint, and then those other sessions, they'll still count to the driver because they'll be able to get the records or whatever they wanted. But comparing like GTA to GridLife, I feel like what GTA doesn't have is that on that Sunday, it's that morning session, and it's like one and done. All those other 3 sessions don't count, because you put all your beans into the morning session, because it's the coolest time. tire temps, your car temps, like everything's good, you know. So those three last sessions don't really, there's not really much of a change up, and I really like that GridLife does it because it just gives more drivers an opportunity. I think so, but that's my opinion on it.
All right, Kilgore, give your opinion on the podium sprint format.
I think overall, I really enjoy it, and I say this from a perspective of I want Time Attack to succeed, and I want Time Attack to grow, and that includes both from people enjoying it who are the drivers and the competitors, as well as from a spectator point of view that they actually enjoy watching it. And I get that, you know, a traditional Time Attack format is really not all that exciting. So I get that, I get that, and I understand that. And people could say, well, Time Attack should just be setting, one fast lap, and that's fair. But exactly what Isaac has said, you know, for the people who know the track and who know their cars, they're going to go out and set the best times and the best conditions, which are usually going to be a morning. And, the afternoon sessions just sort of are, it's just like, why even go out, right? Like, why even stress the car? Why even risk anything in terms of maybe having an off or anything like that, right? And, so it's just like, okay, well, whatever. So I really like the podium sprint. I think it adds drama. It adds this story arc through the GridLife live stream where and I will also echo a little bit of what Josh is saying, although I think we're going to say it for two different reasons. I like the old format from a perspective of I think currently there's too many qualifying sessions. I think there's generally with GridLife too many sessions in general for track battle, and I know that some people may not necessarily agree, but it's like you need to be able to perform, and this isn't just like track days to go out there and run a whole bunch of laps. Now I also understand that some people will say, yeah, but now I'm just showing up and I'm only driving like 5 laps, and it's like, well, look, this that's Time Attack to a degree, but I liked having 1 or 2 practice sessions at the very beginning that don't count. I think this also could take care of some issues with run orders and run groups. It could allow people with a little less stress to get out. They could try some things with their car, try some setups, get a lap in, and not be so stressed that, oh, if I don't get this in, I'm going to be down other sessions. So I like having a practice session or 2 at the beginning, then having qualifiers. I think one thing that was actually brought up in a totally different context, actually this was brought up by Tom O'Gorman with SCCA Time Trial Nationals that happened just a couple weeks ago at Pit Race. They do kind of something similar to what Josh is talking about, where they use like a day 1 time and then a day 2 time, and they put those together. Tom sort of came up with an interesting thought of, instead of having day 1 and day 2, what you should do, and I think like maybe GridLife could sort of implement something like this, just to give more weight to the sessions, have a morning time, right? So you could have like a Friday morning and a Saturday morning session. So you pick your best, you take whatever is the best of the morning sessions, but then you also have to take your best of the afternoon sessions, right? So then the morning sessions aren't the only thing that matters. You also have to still go out in the afternoon, and it sort of splits the time. And I thought that was sort of just an interesting take in terms of what Josh was saying, not putting everything just basically onto like 1 or 2 sessions throughout the weekend. This would provide more drama over some of those sessions and make you perform across different weather conditions.
I don't want to like act like I hate podium sprints. I do think I like it better than the just standard Time Attack format. But like you were saying, that I've raced wheel to wheel. I've done endurance and stuff with turning concepts. And the thing I like about it is that every time you drive, it matters, right? And that's one thing I don't like about Time Attack is, Andy Holster I'm competing against, who's a phenomenal driver. I mean, I'm like, God, is this guy that much better than me? Because he will go out just the morning session, rip out a time, and then just hang out the rest of the day, not do anything, and do another morning session, and then hang out the rest of the day. And I'm like, I need all the track time I can get to like do good. but they really don't matter, right? Like if you got a morning session where it's 60 degrees and it's 95 in the, like, 1, 2 p.m. session, I mean, it just doesn't matter. And that's where I agree with your idea where, like, if you have a morning time and an afternoon time, or somehow just do something to make all the sessions matter. You know, I just feel like I would be much more excited about it. Every session I go out, I'd be much more excited about it. I wouldn't be going out thinking, well, there's no way this is gonna work. It's 20 degrees hotter. There's no way I'm gonna go faster. I think that could really make it both a driver's and a spectator sport, because if you can tell the story in a way that this thing you're watching right now matters, that's what people want to see,
So
right?
here's my hot take. So as you guys describe this, I go down a path of, if I'm building an unlimited class, super high horsepower, badass time attack car, I'm not trying to go out in every session. So a concept of averaging sessions and creating some sort of like equation to do this, every like high-end time attack guy is going to tell you this is the dumbest thing ever, because they're going to go, let's just take Cole and the Life GTR, for example. They might get 2 sessions out the weekend where they get to rip that car at full beans, because if they did that every session, they wouldn't be able to last, right? But the whole goal is to run the fastest lap time possible with that car turned up to 11. So in contrast, I go down a path of kind of like what you guys are saying, of make sessions essentially not matter. Create them as practice sessions. Give time to people that want the time for car setup and need the time for car setup, but find moments within the weekend and say, these sessions are the only ones that matter. And whether you choose the last session of the very last day for that to matter, or you pick the morning session and that's the only, you know what I'm saying? Like, pick the sessions that make the most sense. But on Saturday, we're going to have one session that matters. And then Sunday, we're going to have one session that matters. And then we're going to have the podium sprint at the end of the day. I mean, granted, I think we could all probably agree that we wish podium sprint was first thing Sunday morning, because like the only thing I was really kind of upset about with Laguna, to be honest with you, when I looked at the schedule and I went, why the hell is track battle podium sprint at the time it was? I feel like that should have been rotated back and you guys should have been on track at, like, honestly, question to the drivers here, would you have given up your Sunday morning time and done the podium sprint then and left earlier to do podium sprint earlier at that 10 o'clock timeline?
I mean, do I think it would be better in terms of, right, like you're in the more prime session?
Yeah.
Yes. But with that being said, like, what if we were done by like 11, but the awards still weren't until 3:45? I'm still I'm still like hanging around, to like waiting to go, to the awards. So I honestly, like, it really doesn't matter all that much. And I think it's important that I think that it's important that people are there for the awards. I do know that, at least from GridLife's initial perspective this year, was based on their format. They were sort of trying to do a more pro style broadcast.
The
And
broadcast
so they were
was
kind of,
awesome.
well, yeah, what I mean by that is, in terms of, most big races, which I sort of question, like, are they trying to compete with the NASCARs and the Formula Ones and the IMSAs of the world, right? But like, their big races generally happen on Sunday afternoon, right? Like, that's when like racing happens on a weekend. Obviously we're taking endurance racing out of this, but Sunday afternoon is where the big race is. And so from their perspective, they put track battle in what they think is the prime motorsports portion of the day, which is Sunday afternoon, where people are going to want to watch motorsports. Whether that turned out or not, I don't really know. I still think the 3-day weekend is a bit too much. And I think it's, like the Saturday attendance was great. Sunday attendance was like pretty lackluster. I mean, there were still people there, but there's just not as many people that come on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean,
so I kind of want I kind of want Podium Sprint to be on Saturday afternoon where all the people are actually there at the track. If it were me, like if it were up to me.
Yeah, I mean, I see that as honestly, I go down a path of like that would be like a non-starter, but I could definitely see like Sunday morning, use it as an opportunity. I think you guys could have swapped with like with the drift or the rush or something like that, and rush happening later in the afternoon would have been completely acceptable because they're all on track together at the same time and they're not trying to battle a specific time. But again, this is all semantics. This is just ideas for the future. Again, I think personally, I go down the path of this. I think Podium Sprint from a spectator's perspective is amazing for time attack. I absolutely can say I think Podium Sprint from a spectator perspective is absolutely amazing. The high that we, for people like Bailey Woods, right? The high of the Podium Sprint must have been tremendous, right? When they have those shakeups and those things that happen, if somebody, like at the end of the day, we haven't, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, you've been there. How many times have we seen someone go 4 off during a Podium Sprint and get DQ'd? That's where I get a little weirded out, is because I think Podium Sprint is actually slightly discouraging to drivers to push all out. And I'll ask Josh, because Josh has probably got the most experience in Podium Sprint for this. Do you think that it kind of discourages you as a driver to go as flat out and as crazy as possible to try to get that lap time, or do you think that's still there?
No, I think it definitely does. I mean, people have been DQ'd in podium sprints for going 4 off. So I think that's what everyone thinks about because, the rest of the weekend, as long as you set a time and you get off the track and you don't go 4 off, then have to self-report, that time stands, right? But I mean, you could break the record by 2 seconds, most insane lap ever, and then, I don't know, go 4 off because you're just not paying attention to the next lap or something, and all of a sudden you get 5th or something like that. I mean, I completely agree with you. I think they're going for consistency, right? They're trying to give the consistent driver, like we're talking about Bailey, the ability to pull out something where maybe one car was a little bit faster, 1 out of 10 laps or something like that. So, I mean, if we're talking about from a spectator standpoint, if you could go 4 off and it didn't matter, it would definitely be a lot more exciting because then people that are, a little bit off are going to be like, I'm sending it. I don't care. But that's probably the worst time of day for them to have anyone go 4 off too. So they probably don't want to see that at that point when they're trying to get those cars through to get the whole system to run properly.
Yeah.
I think I'll follow up with what Josh said earlier. I think Podium Sprint is great. And if they didn't change it, I wouldn't be that upset. Do I think, there could be some tweaks to it? Yeah, maybe. But I like the fact that you have to go 9.5 tenths. And I think it takes a little bit of extra precision in terms of pushing, but not overstepping and literally getting as close to the line, whether that's the racing line or the curb or whatever, as you can without overstepping it and just being like, I'm just going to send it through this turn with an extra 8 mile an hour and see what happens versus I've got to hit my marks, but at the same time, I know I've got to be fast. So I've got to be precise and pull back just a little bit But if you pull back too much, you might get passed. You might get jumped. And so I think for me, that's where like the excitement comes in. And personally, I like it in terms of I've got to be very precise. I've got to hit my marks, but I've still got to be fast.
Isaac, you're a young buck. How did you feel? Did you feel like you were having to restrain yourself, or were you just let's go, baby?
So it was like the four off thing kind of scared me for sure because I think I'm pretty well known to go four off, especially above the yellow. But
Like to push the
but
limits.
yeah, for sure. But no, I was like, let's do it. Let's try to get up to the podium for sure. Honestly, like on the podium sprint when I was driving those 3 laps, they felt like the three of like the slowest laps in my life because I didn't know, you never know. I was like, I didn't even have my Garmin inside the car because I didn't want to distract myself. I
Oh
was just
wow.
like,
Wow.
yeah, it was like the three slowest laps of my life, and then I came into the pits. And then the whole SDC crew was right there, and then of course my family because I had jumped up 2 places and everybody was just super hyped. Um, no, I honestly I really love the podium sprint. I think it pushes drivers. It shakes the rankings up. Sometimes it doesn't either. Too. It doesn't. It's like it's usually the
Yeah.
same rankings as well. But like that's just it's just so many factors. I think the people that are always on top, like first and second, would prefer not to have the podium sprint because they have to go out there and risk their car. But I think the underdogs, have an advantage of going out there and possibly getting a spot, So I think it's like a love-hate relationship for all the drivers. But I honestly love it. It was really fun. For sure, like the best weekend of my life of like time attack. It was super fun.
Nice. Well, I mean, I just wanted to kind of really dig into that podium sprint. I can't stress it enough. I think from an audience standpoint, when I'm watching on the live stream, I love watching the podium sprint. I think that's an awesome way, and it really showcases those top 5 drivers. It gives them a lot of time to put the camera on the drivers, talk about the drivers, talk about the teams. Really gives us a good sense of those top 5 guys that we can really talk about and like, get to know. So I love that factor of it, and I love the pressure cooker factor. Again, I go back to what I said before. I think personally that we should care less about every session. I think we should kind of go kind of like what Josh was saying into a realm where we have more practice sessions into qualifying into podium, which would lead to us being able to put more emphasis on certain sessions, and kind of like what Kilgore said. So in the very beginning, we ended up in a situation where the first couple sessions of the weekend were more just about practicing, getting the cars ready, and less about it kind of like if you looked at a race weekend, like if you look at the Rush guys and the GLTC guys, the first ones are the practice, and then they go into qualifier, and then they go into the race. And if you really came at it from that perspective, I think it would kind of be a building block factor. You get guys in a better position where we're not impeding people as much, so we have the grid order really situated and really well set up. I think we could be in a really good position. So, again, I'm not saying that we got to make a bunch of drastic changes, but I think there's some small tweaks. And again, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. One thing I love about GridLife is they are not afraid to make changes. They are actively always looking at ways to make it a better show, a better race, a better event. So I have a lot of high hopes for those guys. And we're going to talk to Adam Jabay at a later time about this event and about GridLife as a whole. So, as we put together all of our fun-filled ideas, pass them our way, guys. Send them over to us, and we'll pass them over to Adam, and we'll see if any of them get taken in. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, these guys are smart guys. They're doing a really good thing, and they've been doing a good thing for many years. This has been a good one, man. You guys have done a great job talking this event up, talking about everything that's happened. Kilgore, what else we got for them?
Really, the last thing we can hit on is how can people follow you? We'll throw it to Isaac first. Throw out any of your sponsors, any of your Instagram, YouTube, anything like that, where people can follow along with your journey.
Cool. So I have my brand, Prodigy Apparel. You can type that in Instagram. You'll find it. But to see like my personal life, it's just I _ Isaac Torres and an underscore again. I usually don't post on there as much just because it's my personal, but on the Prodigy account, you'll see me active there a lot. I'm not gonna lie, after Super Lap Battle, I kind of went like I went under a little bit. I wasn't posting much, but as soon as GridLife came up, I was kind of constantly posting. Um, I really tried making a YouTube video out to Laguna and stuff, but like those Saturday and Sunday sessions, I kind of got mixed and like caught, so I didn't record much. But I'll try to make like a little video. And then obviously on Prodigy on Instagram, you can find all the onboards and just the stuff we're doing. I kind of want to turn it into like a more personal thing of like, oh, like I'm going to school, and after we're renting the car, or like, so you guys will find a lot of cool stuff coming up on there.
Sweet.
All right.
All right.
Josh, how about yourself?
You can follow me on at Halka Racing, HALKA Racing on Instagram. And then just a lot of the turn-in concepts page stuff. We're kind of shared on there a lot too. As far as sponsors and everything goes, I've been working with Fortune Auto for a long time on suspension components and stuff like that. They do an awesome job. Boost Control Performance has been tuning my car. They were like the first people I ever worked with back when I was doing all the, internet ordering of parts and stuff like that. And Turning Concepts makes the best Subaru motors on the market. So if you're looking for something, if you're tracking your car, have them build you one. You won't end up wasting a lot of time and money. That's what I got.
Excellent.
If
Well, on that note, for the perfect lap, go ahead. Yeah, what you got, Isaac?
if there's more time, I would like to shout out a couple sponsors that helped me for Laguna. Race
Bring
Grid
it, brother.
Components. They actually pulled off their GridLife spec splitter off of their prototype car for me, and they shipped it over. And then of course Spage, they're from Canada, and they had shipped over a new wing for me for this event. Go Racebox, they're my tuner, and they're located in Houston. They tune mostly BMW stuff. They actually tune like drag cars and roll race cars. So we're their first time attack car. So Kilgore, when you're ready to up some horsepower, I'll get you hooked up. They do
There you
everything
go.
like
All right, brother.
online and stuff too.
I
So
could use
they'll help you out.
750 horsepower.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's
Yeah,
do it.
I'm down for I'm down for 750, 800, whatever it is.
And then of course my dad and Joelle for being like just role models in my life, and of course helping me get everywhere. It was a long drive for Joelle. It was about 24 hours, and then it was 18 for us to get back home. I know Joelle woke up like at 4 in the morning at my house actually, and he left back to work. He had to make it to work in Odessa at the diesel shop. So
Woof.
yeah.
That's awesome. Let's see.
Sure.
We've mentioned a couple people here. So we mentioned Cole Powelson. If you guys ever want to go back, check out episode 28 of this podcast where we had a chat with Cole Powelson. And then also episode 22, we had Joel on as well. He talked about his time at Super Lap Battle and sort of his journey through Time Attack and where he's at now. So go back and hit those episodes up if you have not done those yet. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Perfect Lap Podcast. Jager did an unbelievably awesome job this weekend at Laguna. I want to give him a big shout out. He was going around, he was interviewing people, he was getting the scoop. I think he had the first interview with Jackie Ding after his mishap. He was doing an awesome job. So I want to give a big shout out to him. And I am hoping that we're going to be able to do that again at Button Willow for finals. So you guys be sure and join the Instagram page, and we will keep you up to date on all things Time Attack. You can hit up our website at perfectlappodcast.com. You can email the show at maximumattack@perfeclappodcast.com. That's maximumattack@perfeclappodcast.com. If you have any things that you want us to tell Adam Jabay about, or any suggestions, or if you have other people that you want us to try and get on the show, let us know, because we want to have people on that you want to hear from. You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Those are the main areas where you can find us. You can either watch us live on YouTube, or you can listen to us with Apple Podcasts and Spotify. As always, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode with Josh Halka and Isaac Torres Jr. For all you time attackers out there, keep pushing, go fast, take chances. We'll see you in the next one.